We'll start now.
Sure.
Yeah, just a moment. Good morning to one and all. Welcome to today's session of FDP2. With the kind consent of the convener, we are starting this session, which is scheduled for today. And today's session is hands-on training, or you can also call it as a workshop on patent search and prior art search. And we have our resource person today, Dr. Sarasija Padmanabh. She is a patent agent in Bangalore and an advisor member at PIC KSCST. She is also a consultant, Arklevant and Basque Law Firm, Delhi. Dr. Sarasija Padmanabh holds a PhD degree in molecular biology from Shamyang Institute of Bioorganic Chemistry and Molecular Biology of the Russian Academy of Sciences. She was trained as a postdoctoral fellow at the Molecular Biophysics Unit of the Indian Institute of Science, a premier research institute in India. She has also completed her Bachelor's of Law from Annamalai University. Formally trained in the life sciences and chemistry together with a background in law has been perfect fit for the work she carries out. She brings over 18 years of incisive experience in the IP space across diverse technologies spanning pharmaceuticals, medical devices, molecular biology, organic chemistry, and material sciences, with special interest in green, frugal, and smart innovations. Besides consulting for IP facilitations, firms like Arquient and BASC located in Delhi and Cambridge, Sarasija also involves herself passionately with the Indian government's mission of spreading IP awareness within the country. Under the aegis of Vishveshraya Trade Promotion Center, Bangalore and KSCST, she has participated in bringing awareness to numerous schools, colleges, and MSMEs. She has been a study winner in more than 3 crowdsourced studies by Article 1 Partners, one of the largest patent search companies in the world. She also has won numerous awards and scopes. Recently, she participated as an individual contractor and consultant in a collaborative effort to prepare a guide of identified inventions in the public domain by the WIPO, which is Intellectual Property World Intellectual Property Rights Organization. And she continues to participate in the efforts made by WIPO Match. Now she is also a tutor in the WIPO e-learning platform. Ma'am, on behalf of the staff, students and management, the Department of Biotechnology and the Oxford College of Engineering, we welcome you to be a resource person for this session, ma'am. Welcome to the department and this FDP session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have already conducted one webinar recently with you all. But I am going to go over the basics just so that the new participants are familiarized with these major principles. So is my screen visible to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So we'll start with the basic question: what is prior art? What is prior art? Okay. Prior art is any evidence that your invention is already known.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can
Yeah.
you adjust your camera? Your face is not visible, only that background, that image is visible.
Are you not able to see my screen?
Screen is visible, but your face is not visible. Your background.
You want to see my face? There isn't very much on my face.
Now, fine, ma'am. You.
Okay. So prior art is any evidence that your invention is already known. Now, why is this important? So when you go for patents, there is a concept of novelty and there is a concept of inventive step. Okay, so there is an emphasis on inventions or on science that are new. Okay, so that's where prior art becomes important. You need to know that what exists before something is categorized as an invention. Invention has two components. One is that of newness or novelty, and inventive step. Of course, industrial applicability has to be there. That is the basis. Okay, so that's why prior art becomes important. And it is not something that has to exist physically or be commercially available. Okay, it is enough that someone somewhere sometime has described or shown or made something that contains a use of technology that is similar to your invention. So that's what is prior art, you know, some kind of documentation, okay, or knowledge about that what you claim to be yours. So it is in that context that prior art becomes important. Now, in most schools and colleges, you do projects, right? You do scientific projects, you submit thesis. So for all that, you do a review of literature. Usually that is a review of literature based on scientific journals and articles published in scientific journals, right? Nobody, at least not very many people, think about patents and the inventions, those are documented there. So this lecture is all about patent databases, but with the thought that it is not only about patent databases. Documentation can be anywhere. It can be non-patent literature, it can be newspaper articles, it can be comic strips, anything. Okay. Now, what are the main objectives of a prior art search? To generate ideas for R&D. Now, when you generate an idea for R&D, okay, so let us say you're making a chair, all right, you're thinking of a very special chair, maybe, you know, something that has 4 legs and it can be extended to be made into a bed or something like this. But if you're going to make that, or if you have an idea, it's always better to know what is it in that area, in that direction, that has already been done. Okay, and what are the loopholes in that? What are the disadvantages of that what already exists, or what are the advantages of? Accordingly, you can modify your idea, make it more suitable for the public you're going to use that idea for. Okay, to avoid duplication of research. Obviously, if it already exists in the prior art, there's no point in your trying to think about it or break your head on that, right? To reduce significantly R&D investment. So now at arriving to a conclusion, you have to go through a certain number of steps, right? You have to do A to reach B, you have to do B, and then you will come to C. But now if it is already being done, you don't need to go through those steps. You already know those steps if you look at the literature. Next, to develop new technical solutions to the problems. Now, just like to generate ideas for R&D, to develop new technical solutions to problems, provided there is some advantage in that solution. Okay, to evaluate a specific technology, to see the pros and cons, right? What is the plus point? What is the negative point? How much is the advantage? Then to plan new products. Okay, so you need to see whether you can have new products. To identify state of the art. Now, state of the art is an examination of literature as it stands today. State of the art means the current status. Next is to find the legal status of patent application. Legal status of patents means whether it is abandoned, whether it is in force, you know, whether it has been filed in a particular country, which are the countries where it has been filed. To assess novelty and patentability. This is already being told, like in the first point, that is to generate ideas, to avoid duplication. That is novelty and patentability. To market for commercialization. To market, you need to know where the patent has already been filed. Those are the places where the invention will be protected and commercialization will be facilitated. To update new technological trends. To monitor competitors' research activities, to prevent infringement actions, validity, ownership, etc. So you see, the objectives of prior art search are manifold. Okay. Now, there's a question for the audience for which I will require the help from the moderators. In the chat box, I will request the audience to put in their answers. The question is, there is a prehistoric cave painting of a wheel. Your invention is directed towards making a wheel. Now, would this prehistoric cave painting of a wheel constitute prior art? Can I see answers in the chat box as yes or no? Are there some answers in the chat box?
Not yet, ma'am. Okay.
Okay.
1 minute. We have one. Miss Kunalika says no.
No. Okay. Any other answers?
Ardhara says yes.
Okay.
Sushma Bhandarkar says yes.
Mm-hmm.
Bhumika says no. Anusha says yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. So take it as 50-50, yes and no. So basically, this is prior art. So it is a documentation. It is a cave painting. It exists. It has been thought about. So it is already existing in the prior art. There is some information on a wheel in the prior art. You have to take it into consideration. See that what already exists. Okay. The next question is, a product which is not patented but exists in the market. Does this constitute prior art? A product which is not patented but exists in the market. Is this prior art?
We have Sushma telling yes. Shruti saying yes. Noor says yes. Ardhara says yes. So Aishwarya, Rahul say yes.
Fantastic. So that's correct. It exists in the market. So that is already prior art. It is known. There is evidence that there is knowledge about this particular thing which is related to a wheel. An invention that is described in a journal but never became a product. An invention that is described in a journal but never became a product. Would this constitute prior art?
Mr. Dharamveer says yes. Guledal Pritam says yes. Dr. Saraswati says yes. Uma Shiva says yes.
Excellent. That is absolutely correct. So it does not have to physically exist. Even the thought, if it is documented, that is absolutely prior art. Okay. Now, what is prior art search? It is an effort to identify prior art references relevant in a particular context, and it might include search on patent and non-patent databases, general internet search for news items, articles, blogs, and other references. Okay, physical search in yet to be digitized libraries. Some books are not digitized, but they exist physically. So that is already a documentation of some kind, and that already constitutes prior art. Now, there is an example I have for you, which is the Donald Duck case as a prior art. So sometime back in 1964, okay, the freighter Al Kuwait, it capsized in the docks in Kuwait's harbor. The ship was carrying 5,000 sheep that started decomposing in the harbor's water. And this threatened to contaminate the city of Kuwait's drinking water supply. The ship had to be raised as quickly as possible. Bringing in cranes would have taken too long. There was a significant risk. People had to think on their feet. So now there was an inventor by the name of Carl Kreuer. Okay, he came up with a method of raising this ship by filling it with buoyant bodies fed through a tube. And he filled the ship with 27 plastic balls made of expandable polystyrene foam and weighing 65 tons. These balls had been airlifted from Berlin to Kuwait, and he also filed for patents for this method in the United Kingdom. There is a patent number for it. Later, when you are familiar with patent searching, you can search for these patents and see that they really exist. Great Britain granted a patent Germany granted a patent, and the company was probably BASF, but the inventor is Kreuer. And the patent claims, what the basic claims were, buoyant bodies are inserted into a sunken vessel through a tube from a salvage ship. He filed in two places, and then he filed in Holland as well. But in Holland, he did not get a patent. See, the process of examination is subjective because it depends on the examiners. What is the literature that is available to them? What is it that they are seeing, right? Patent examiners do a prior art search. The main thing is to check for novelty, right? So if you have done a novelty search before filing for your patent application, you have an advantage because you know what are the main what is the main literature that will pop up on a patent search or a non-patent search, and you can draft your patent application in such a way that those things are somehow circumvented, right? Or also introduce certain elements into your invention such that the prior art is circumvented. Now, as I said already, this thing is very subjective to the literature that is available to the examiner. The examination happens based on what literature is available. Now, Kreuer, he filed for an application in Holland as well. But there, what happened was the examiner refused it. Why? Because there is a story by Karl Barks called the Donald Duck story. It's called the Sunken Yak. And if you, let me see if I can just, for 1 second, if I can, yeah. So here you see, they are raising the ship by filling it with ping pong balls shoved through a tube. And it is the usual story. You see in the little cartoon clip that is here, it's the exact same invention as what was implemented by Kreuer in Kuwait, right? So the examiner said this already exists, you see, and it was denied. So it does not have to be a patent database. It does not have to be a journal article. It can be even a comic strip. That is the whole idea of telling the story. Now, other things are also there. For example, there is an entry system for pets. There is a Great Britain patent, but this was already there in a comic. If you see this, this is also a similar one, entry system for pets, where there is a dog which uses a bell to enter, and there is a little door for the dog to enter. So this was a patented, but if the examiner comes, to see this kind of literature, it can be used as an object, it can be cited against that application. Okay. So I'm just making this point clear that it is not always something which is digitized, which is in a database, or which is a patent, or it is in a journal article. None of that. It can even be a newspaper article. It can even be a comic strip, or it can be a scene from a movie, anything that is documented. All right. So unconventional sources of prior art, I am sure you know IEEE, right? Product data sheets, manuals, blogs, discussion forums, e-commerce websites, videos, movies, web archives, press releases. These are all unconventional and non-patent literature. Okay, now, right, quickly we will go through this. Can I see some answers in the chat box? Is a discovery patentable subject matter? Is a discovery patentable subject matter?
Kunalika says no. Pavan says no. Most of the answers are no, ma'am.
Excellent. That is absolutely correct. Discoveries are not patentable because they already exist and you have only found them. All right. For example, now just to twist it a little bit, iron ore is there in nature, right? Iron ore exists in nature. Now, if you make a method for extracting iron from its ore, is that patentable subject matter?
The answers coming in are yes.
Very good. Absolutely correct. There is human intervention. The method was not known. The method is new. And then the next thing is, if now the iron which is resulting from the new method of extracting iron ore, is that patentable subject matter?
Dhanush says no, whereas others are saying yes.
It is yes, okay, because there is a human intervention and there might be a modification in the end product. All right. Now there is a question for you. Willow has salicylic acid. This has been detected. Now, would this detection be patentable? Would detecting salicylic acid in willow be patentable subject matter?
Sushma says no. Then Dr. Saraswati says no. Jasmine, yes. Arpita says yes. Sanjay says no. Aparna says yes.
Okay, so let's take it as 50-50 as yes and no. Well, detecting salicylic acid in willow would tantamount to a discovery. A discovery that salicylic acid is contained in willow tree. Discoveries are not patentable subject matter, right? So just the mere discovery of something is not patentable because it already exists in the prior art. Now, let's refine the question. Would finding out that salicylic acid provides relief from headache be patentable subject matter? That means you are using salicylic acid to cure headache. Now, would this be patentable subject matter?
No, most of the answers say yes.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. Okay, now let us look at some patent databases. I'm getting some back. Okay. So here we are looking at some patent databases and non-patent databases. Okay, so patent databases can be paid or it could be free, right? So the paid ones, you have to have a subscription and it has some extra features, whereas the fundamentals, the basics are the same in paid and free. Okay, so you would have the same way, the basics are usually the same. The paid ones would have fancier visualizations and more features, but the basics, the information that is contained is generally the same. Some of the free databases are Patent Scope, ESPAS-NET, our Indian patent database INPAS. Okay, the US patent database is also free. Okay, and Backbase is one which you need a subscription for. MicroPat, Thomson Innovation, Delphion, all these are the ones which you need to pay money. Non-patent databases, I'm sure you know most of these, right? And usually the free ones are used most, and those are Google Scholar, PubMed, okay, and the ones which you have to pay for are IEEE, Thomson Innovation, etc. And Web of Science, Scopus, those are also subscribed ones. Okay, now let us look at the activity and what is the associated prior art. Now, when you think you have innovated something and you want to go for a patent, you need to do a patentability search. When you are planning or completed a product launch, you want to do a freedom to operate search. You don't want to tread on anybody's toes. You're accused of patent infringement, and you plan to license a patent. You're involved in a litigation, when invalidity or a validity search becomes important. In the middle of innovating and you face a stumbling block, you do design around searches. You're planning to innovate, planning a business expansion, planning a business strategy, then you do state-of-the-art searches or IP landscape studies. Okay, so now let us look at how you go about doing this search. First, there are some pre-search activities which have to be completed. So in that, there are 5 major points. First is identify the purpose of the search. Okay, what is it that is to be done, right? You have to understand the technology, you have to identify the novel elements, identify keywords and phrases, and identify appropriate patent classes. Now, all this has to be done before you enter into the actual search activity, right? And this is done by a process which is called deconstruction. You deconstruct that what is your main idea. Okay, so when an inventor wants to file a patent, goes to a patent agent, he usually fills in something which is called an invention disclosure form, in which he, according to what is best convenient or as has been requested by the patent agent, we put in all the details, like what is the purpose, what is the technology, what are the novel elements, maybe the basic keywords and phrases, and the patent agent supplements that with whatever is required or refines it so that it becomes suitable for a patent search. Now, this process of deconstruction, the main thing is to identify novel elements. So if whether it is a device or is it a process, if it is a device, does it have a form? What are the parts? What is the structure? How does it function? What is the effect? And if it is a process, does it have a sequence of steps? Okay. Is it a combination of device and process? Does it have an end product? Does it not have an end product? Is it a new chemical substance? Does it have a use? So on. So these are some of the fundamental, elements which you find after you break down your invention disclosure. All right. So there may be more. Okay, these are just some of what comes to mind. Okay, now we'll take an example. For example, if you have a loaf of bread, you will want to break it down into component ingredients and component technologies. If you have component ingredients, would be flour, liquid, shortening, yeast, dough conditioners, right? These are component ingredients, first glance. Similarly, what are the component technologies in a loaf of bread? There is sifting, mixing, leavening, kneading, baking, slicing. But is that all? Is this sufficient for a search? Is this sufficient for a comprehensive search? You can always go in for more detail, more specificity, depending on the kind of search you want to do. Now, let us look at the component ingredients and let's blow it up. So when you say flour, you could have soy flour, you could have wheat flour. Soy flour, what kind of soy flour? Wheat flour could be bleached, enriched, refined. It could be whole wheat. It could be gluten-free, right? It could be corn flour. Similarly, you could break it up to the extent of the specificity that is required. Okay. Now, when you talk of component ingredients, it's not only flour, there's also liquid. What kinds of liquid? Water, milk, beer, buttermilk, yogurt, fruit juice, whatever other possible liquids. You could include these as keywords when you are looking at the liquid used for the loaf of bread. Okay. And what other component ingredients? Shortening. What kind of shortening? Butter, vegetable oil, eggs, lard, and other possible fats. So this is the shortening which is used. Yeast.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, a few participants are unable to see your PPT. They want it to be on full screen mode.
Okay, let me try. Is that better?
It is not visible, ma'am, whatever the content is.
Yeah, so you'll have to just listen to me because it's very small font to fit. It won't. So just listen to me. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, so what I just said was the flour could be any kind of flour. It could be soy flour, it could be wheat flour, it could be corn flour, right? Now, when you say soy flour, it could be, there could possibilities are numerous. Example of wheat flour has been expanded further to be bleached, enriched, refined, whole wheat or gluten-free. Similarly, corn flour could be blown up, right? When you talk about the liquid which is being used, right? The liquid would be water, milk, beer, buttermilk, yogurt, fruit juice, etc. So these are the components which are possible as the liquid for the loaf of bread. Then shortening, I went into it similarly, citing butter, vegetable oil, eggs, lard, and other possible fats. Yeast, the types of yeast. Okay, the dough conditioners. So you see, it depends on the component ingredient. Okay, you can go from very broad to very specific. Okay, depending on the kind of search you are doing. Any questions on this? Any questions on this?
No, ma'am, we haven't received any.
Okay, so here now, further, we blew up, first we blew up all the component ingredients. Now let us look at the component technologies very briefly. So we said sifting, mixing, leavening, kneading, baking, and slicing. Now, is sifting the end of the story there? No, it isn't. Because it could be composed of a sifter, a sieve, a colander. Mixing, you could use a whisk or you could use a food processor, right? And then kneading could be manual or a food processor. Baking could be in an electric oven, in a solar oven, various types of ovens, right? Slicing, is it manual or mechanized? So you see the component technologies also, there are many ways of making bread. Okay, so this is the entire process of deconstruction for a loaf of bread. So it's not, see, when you look at a loaf of bread from a patenting perspective, this is the number of elements that it contains, right? It is not just flour and water and kneading and putting it in the oven. There is a lot of stuff that you have to think about. Any questions? Hello, I didn't hear that.
86 participants ఉన్నారు.
We are muting the participant, ma'am. It's a background.
Okay. So now here we are taking diclofenac. We're just breaking it down. We're doing a quick deconstruction here. So you see there you have the chemical structure, right? Generic chemical structure, right? And then you have the various trade names for diclofenac. Here we have Voltaren and Caltaflam. Okay, then you have the various chemical names. You have the formulae, you write those out. What is the exact structure for a scaffold? This I have specifically said pattern scope, but then here you just take the skeleton. And what are the other elements of the chemical product? Whether it is a solid particle, it is a gel formulation, it's a topical. So you break down the product. This is the way you break it down. It's not just something that comes as a tablet, as a pill, or as a gel, but it has lots of elements in it. Okay, now if it is a transgenic multivitamin corn variety, what are the things that you would have, right? So you would have the source, you would have the processes, and you would have the gene constructs and their individual elements, and you would break these down further such that you arrive at the degree of specificity that you're looking for. Okay, so now just to show you the kind of keyword string that you would have, it can be as long as a page. I'm just quickly showing you something here for heart disease or heart attack or lung cancer or AIDS. So similarly, okay. So any questions so far, so that I know that we are doing okay? Any questions so far on deconstruction?
No, ma'am, didn't receive any.
Okay. So there are some things called operators and wildcards. Usually the operators are and or not. Okay. So the various I have put here, you are still not being introduced to these databases, but just know that these are the operators which are used. Then there are wildcards. Okay. Wildcards means you can have different letters or a different set of letters after the stem. Okay, then something called proximity operators, which is near, another word near, within 5 words or with next to or so on. Okay, these are certain things which we will be seeing shortly. All right, and what are the basic steps which are involved in prior art search? So we've gone through 7 steps. So you get the document, you look at the document, do a background search, you collect keywords and you build a query. You do a quick analysis on the taxonomy. You finalize the search query. You start your analysis. You finish analysis. You mark relevant patents. And then you can repeat this process till you keep on going from 5 to 1 till you come at an optimal solution. And then you structure your report. You can have graphs and that, etc. That is the final delivery. Quickly here, I will tell you about the international patent classification. It goes from A to H, and these are the various domains. Each one you can dig deeper and deeper, and you come to more specific domains. We need to have a little bit of an idea. I covered this in the last lecture, but I'm just mentioning this here so that you know that this is something which we use to streamline the searches. You know, prior art can exist in various languages, and so that language is not a hindrance and not an impediment in patent searching. Classification systems have been put in place, you know, and they go across language barriers. Patents in a similar domain are put together in most of the databases. All right, so here we have most of the theory of prior art searching. I would like to know, you know, like basic concepts as to what is territoriality of a patent or the time period of patent. Do most of you know this? I mean, how many of you know this is what I want to know. What is patentability and patentability timelines? These things are very important, and I really need to know whether the audience knows this. Or shall I quickly go through this as well before we start on the search, right? Any answers? Shall I just go ahead?
There is Mr. Pavan says, not so sure, ma'am. And then Sushma says 20 years is the time as patent is valid. Vilas Rao is not aware of anything of this.
Okay, let's just do it then. Let's just do it. Okay. So my question to you is, what are patents for? What do you think patents are for? I have 4 options here. Protecting an individual or company's investment in the development of a specific invention, making sure that nobody but the patent holder can benefit from the invention, sharing information about a new invention with the public, keeping a new invention secret from competitors. What would you think are patents for? You see, there is an e-tutorial which used to be available. I am not able to see it now. I have given the link here below. So most of the information that I'm going to share is from that tutorial. Okay, it is for the Technology Innovation Support Centers, and we have one of those here in Bangalore as well, in the Patent Information Cell of the KSCST. And most of this information is from there. It's all in the public domain. There's nothing secret about what I'm going to tell you here. Okay, and it's just general knowledge. I'm putting it out so that we refresh our memories on what patents basically are and what are they used for. So what are patents for? What is the answer that comes from the audience? In the chat boxes, please. One, two, three, four. You could, put your answer in the chat box in terms of number, however you feel like.
Ardra says A, Kushmita says A. Most of the answers are A, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Protecting an
Dhanush
individual.
says 2.
Okay.
Then we have one person saying 1 and 3 is correct answer. Pulvika says all 4 are correct.
Okay.
Aparna
Okay, so
says 2.
it's not about keeping invention secret from competitors. It is not about making sure that nobody but the patent holder can benefit from the invention. These two are not correct. Okay, so a patent is a negative right. Let's get that clear. It's a negative right. Why is it a negative right? Because it gives you a right by preventing others. A patent prevents third parties from exploiting an invention without the permission of the person or the company that holds the right to the invention. Okay, this does not mean that no one else can benefit from the invention. Okay, when you apply for a patent, the application, the invention offers the public something of value, and this is detailed information that would allow others to understand how the invention works. Patent documents are usually published 18 months after the date of filing. So it comes in the public domain. All right. Now, what does it give you? It prevents, although this is put there, it prevents others from making, using, or selling without permission from the patent holder. Okay, so that is the way, that's the deal between the applicant and the government. The applicant tells everything to the government, and the government says, I protect you for a period of time being usually 20 years from the date of filing. Okay, I protect you for a period of 20 years provided you keep paying the maintenance fee from there is a question of patent prosecution which may happen for a period of, let's say, 4 years from the date of filing, and after that, after the grant, if you've taken 4 years to file, then you're left with 16 years. For those 16 years, there's a maintenance fee. Okay, so from the date of filing till the end of the 20 years, the patent remains valid. And if you've done all the necessary, payments and everything, the government will take care of you, right? So you have, it's like an insurance, like you keep it and you're protected by the patent for that period of time in that country where you have filed it, only in that country. Okay, so that's one thing. Now let's go on. So what is in it for the inventor? Inventors benefit by gaining the right to prevent others from making, using, distributing, or selling their invention without their permission. The right can be transferred, sold, or licensed to others by its owner. So this is basically what it is. It's like any other property, right? You have a piece of land. Okay, you can transfer it, you can sell it, you can rent it, you can inherit it. It's the same thing with patents. Okay, what is in it for us? As well as benefiting the inventor, it benefits a much wider group. Patents are published, putting full details of the invention in the public domain. So that's where patent search comes in important. it's in the public domain. The full details are in the public domain. Means everyone can have access to knowledge of the latest advances in technology, which in turn can help guide further research and development. Who owns a patent? The owner of a patent is granted the exclusive right to prevent anyone making, using, selling, or importing the invention without his or her consent. Who owns the patent once it has been granted? Can I have some answers, please, in the chat box? Who owns a patent?
The inventor.
Okay. Any other answers?
The inventor, again we have. Ma'am, all answers coming in says inventor.
Okay, it could be the inventor, it could be the organization the inventor works for, it could be anyone the inventor sells or licenses the patent or assigns the patent rights to. So it could be any of these three. The owner of the patent is not necessarily only the inventor, depending on the employment contract. Now, when you join a company, you get an employment contract. In that, it would be laid out specifically, right? Or the national law, or it could be, whatever the contract is between the employer and the employee. What would be the benefit of commercializing a particular invention? So it's not only the inventor. It depends on where the inventor works, what is the monetary relationship between, and how is he obliged to the employer. This should all usually come in a contract. In the employment contract, it would be in the policy. If it is a university, the policy would state this is how we would share the benefits of commercializing something. So that's what determines who owns a patent. So let's be clear, it's not only the inventor. Okay. The next question is how long and where? How long is a patent valid for? Can we see some answers in the chat box, please?
Sushma says 20 years.
Okay.
Pavan says 20, Nandini 20, Akshay 20, Aishwarya 20.
It is correct. The answer is correct. It's 20 years. Now, 20 years from when? The patent prosecution process, you file an application, then the patent is published in 18 months. It can take from anywhere from 2 to 4 years for the grant of a patent. So from when to when? I mean, when does it start? When does the 20-year period, when does your clock start ticking?
From the approval date, from the date of grant of patent, date of patent application, 20 years after the final approval.
Okay, so it is from the date you file in your application. That is the correct answer. It is the time you submit your application, you get a patent application number, and that date is important. That is when your clock starts ticking. Your 20 years starts there. And where is it valid? Where is this patent valid? You file for an application, let's say in the Chennai Patent Office. Now, where is this going to be valid?
In the country that the patent was filed. Correct. And then throughout India, all over India.
Absolutely correct. Very good. Very good answer. It's only in India because that is the jurisdiction, that is the territory where you will get your protection, the country where you file your patent application in. So that means you can commercialize your invention here, but anybody in Sri Lanka or Nepal Once it is published and it is in the public domain, they can make, use or sell, because you have not protected your invention in those countries. So you have protection only in the country where you have filed for your application. Okay, so right, territory we have done. Okay, now the next question is it mandatory? Is it compulsory if you have an invention, you made a project, you got an invention, that you have to patent it? Are you legally bound to patent your invention? Can we get some answers in the chat box, please?
Dipali says no, Arpita says no, Azra says no, Vilas no, Devlina no.
Excellent, excellent. So why no? You are not legally bound because you know your invention best. You know what is the cost of patenting and what is the benefits of patenting that you are going to get. See, patenting involves money and it involves time. Okay, the results have to be commensurate with the efforts that you put in. So if it is going to be not benefit, you know it best. You have to take a call, you have to take a decision as to whether you want to file a patent or not. Okay, so now let us quickly look at the patent granting and publication. How many of us have patented or filed for a patent in this audience? Can we know quickly? Just yes or no on quick, so that we have a good estimate as to how many of us, so that I know how to time myself on this part of the talk.
Ma'am, we have around 5 to 6 doctorates who are working as associate professors and professors. They have
Right. Okay.
So we have
five,
Dr. Preeta
6
Sharan.
people.
Yeah, we have Dr. Preeta Sharan. Then we have Dr. Manjunath from our organization.
Excellent. Okay, but
Dr.
then we will
Crispin
not
also.
spend too much time because there are people already who have. Okay, so basic process is this, which you see in this flow chart here. It starts with filing. Okay, then there is a formal examination. Then the examiner conducts a prior art search. There is a substantive examination of the application, publication and grant, appeal and opposition. So filing happens in the National Patent Office. In India, where would you file? Okay, let us say you are in Bangalore. Where would you file for your patent and patent application? Can we see some answers in the chat box, please?
Pavan says Chennai.
For Bangalore, Chennai. Excellent. So I am filing for a patent from Lucknow. Where would I file?
Again, Mr. Pavan says Delhi.
Excellent. Very good. From
Nandini also says
Srinagar.
Delhi.
From Srinagar, where would I file?
Dr. Saraswati says Delhi.
Yes. Kolkata, where would I file?
Dipali says Kolkata.
Excellent. Pune, where would I file?
Dr. Saraswati says Mumbai.
Yeah.
And Dipali says Mumbai. Nandini says Mumbai. Sai Shruti says Mumbai.
Yeah.
Devlina also says Mumbai.
Yes. So we have 4 patent offices in India: Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, and Chennai. And these are they define the territory. So east, it is Kolkata; west, it is Mumbai; north, it is Delhi; and south, it is Chennai. These are, so if you are in one of those areas, you will file. But now it has become electronic, right? So the filing is electronic, and depending on the domain, the subject matter, it could be sent to any examiner who is present in any one of these one of these cities and patent offices, depending on the expertise. The subject matter is of importance. Technology is so evolved now, and there are interfacing subject domains. Like, for example, you might have nanotechnology, biotechnology interfacing, and you might not have the appropriate examiner in the jurisdiction. Then it will go to wherever there is the correct examiner, the correct domain expertise present, and accordingly to be done. What is it that entails the formal examination? What do you understand by formal examination? Any answers? No?
No, ma'am, nobody has answered yet.
The formal examination, the patent office will look at the forms and the fees, whether the correct forms have been filled in, the correct fees has been paid. And if it isn't, then it comes back to the applicant, and then it's reviewed over there. Okay, so that's the formal examination. After that, there is a prior art search by the examiner. So what we spoke about in the first module of this talk was a prior art search which is conducted by the applicant, and it is recommended that you look at your technology extensively before you file for a patent. Now, here the prior art search is done by the examiner. Okay. Now, this prior art search would reveal some documents. With those documents would be examined in the substantive examination. Okay. In the substantive examination, the examiner will compare the prior art documents with the application in terms of novelty, inventive step, industrial applicability, patentable subject matter, and so on and so forth. Depending on the results and the answers, the to and fro. So he does an examination and sends a report. First one is called first examination report. That will go to the applicant. The applicant will answer that. That is the response to that action. And it can happen a couple of times that you have to answer the examiner more than once. And then if you come to a good conclusion, you will allow the patent to be granted. That called publication grant. You could be refused. If you are refused, you can appeal. And there is an opposition also that can happen at the same time. So this is the quick review of the entire flow chart of the. I won't go through this because I believe people know all this here. And right. So now when we do a patent search, what becomes important is what is patentable. Okay, when we are doing a patent, this is relevant. So how do you examine the literature? So you have to look at what is new. So it has to have some kind of a difference, something that is more over and above that what already exists. Okay, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking or anything like that. There has to be a little bit of a development. And also what is very important in this context is the priority date. What is a priority date? It is the date on which the first patent application for the invention was filed. Here you have to be careful because publishing details of your own invention before filing for a patent destroys its novelty. So let us say you come up with an invention. You do not file for a patent application. You don't have a patent application number or a patent application priority or filing date, but you have submitted for publication, and that comes in the public domain when the examiner is looking at the patent application. Okay, then that publication of yours can go against you as something which is in the prior art. So you have to be careful of what you publish and when you publish if you are interested in patenting. Okay, it has to be capable of industrial application. That is absolutely correct. There has to be an inventive step. Okay, and usually inventive step, when you get the first examination report, a couple of documents would be cited and the examiner would say, if you combine A with B, you will come to the result that you are claiming to be your invention. So you have to be able to say that, no, that would not be the case. I have an inventive step in my application. Now, there are some exclusions which are highlighted in the section 3 of our Indian patent law. Usually, inventions whose commercial exploitation would threaten public order or morality, diagnostics, therapeutic, surgical methods, plants and animals. These are all over the world. These are excluded. All right. So we won't go through these. And I want you to see quickly what a patent application looks like. Okay, so this is the first page. So you would have an application number. Okay, you would have the applicant's name. Okay, you would have the inventor's names. So all these things are very important in the first page of a patent application. Then there are the dates. All the dates are given. You can see the priority date. You can see the international publication date. This is also in the first page. Okay. And the period of priority we've already spoken about. Okay. So this is basically the gist of what you have to know as the fundamentals before you go on to a patent search. So now let us quickly, if you want to take a break, this is the time to do it, because I will be taking a few minutes to load my different databases. Okay, are you able to see Google Patents?
Able to see.
Okay, so do you want a 5-minute break?
Ma'am, we have a break at 11 o'clock. 11 to 11:30
Okay.
we have a break. So you can continue now.
From 11 to?
11:30.
Okay, we'll take a break at 11 o'clock. That's good. Okay,
Yeah.
so by that time, maybe I will finish Google Patents. All right. So now I hope everybody is with their laptops. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, because that is absolutely necessary if we want to do a hands-on. Okay. So I want you to go to this site. Can you see this? patents.google.com. Can we enter that? Have we done it? Have we got this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now let us do, I will just do something over here and I would want you all to see this carefully and then take your own keywords. So now you see I have put electric car. You could even break it down and not put it together. You put it here like this, right? Now these are the search terms. Now what are the search terms? So if you use the various fields, right, electric and car in the two fields, okay, they are ANDed together. So electric and car. We did the Boolean operators, right, in the previous module, second module that I went through. And, okay, so this is a set electric and this is a set car. If they are combined together with and, okay, what would be the resultant set? This you have to go back to Venn diagrams. If you have a set A and if you have a set B and you do A intersection B, okay, that is the equivalent of electric and car, okay. Similarly, there is here, it says electric and it says or and it says synonym. So here if I put battery, something which is equivalent. So this is or together. This is synonyms. Okay. So if you keep doing, if you put click over here, you will get another OR. If you put another one here, for example, electric battery, or what do you say, LED, if I put LED, and then another synonym. So you can have as many elements which are joined together by OR over here, you see. So this is all one set. Understood? And the next one is car. I can put locomotive. Right? Okay, so, and the answers are, the results keep changing according to what you add over here. All right. Now here it suggests, you see a suggestion for a patent class. You see, there is a patent class suggestion over here. You may or may not wish to use that. Okay, now what else? Okay, we've done this synonym search. Date. So here the date is, you have priority date, filing date, and publication date. Which date are you interested in? Priority means the first application filed. Filing means the one you're interested is only the filing date. You're not interested in the first one. It doesn't matter which one. Publication means that one which is published after the 18th month, or the one which is published after the grant. So here you can put the priority date. So here, for example, it gives you two, from and to. For example, here if I put 2003 and do a click, what it will do is it will say from whenever till 2003, all the applications are given over here. Here you can put the inventor name. Here you can give the assignee name. Which patent offices are you interested in? Here are the country codes which are listed. For example, if you are interested only in the US or in the PCT, European, Japan, Korean, you can put that here. The language also you can restrict it by. All right. So now this is basically the left-hand side panel. You can sort by relevance, right? Newest to oldest. Are you interested in the latest technology, or are you looking for how old is the prior art? You can choose whatever you want. Group by. So you want to group by classification, or the classification doesn't matter to you. How do you want to deduplicate? So what happens is, here is the concept of patent family. A family might have many members. What are family members? Let us say you entered into the patenting process in India. Then you designated China, Europe, Brazil, all right? You might get patent application numbers from all these countries. All those numbers would be patent members of your initial family. Now, you don't want all those members in your result list if you're interested only in the technology, because the technology explained in those family members would be the same. So then you would deduplicate by family, all right? And how many results do you want per page? You can have up to 100 results per page, right? Okay, so here if we limit to US, okay, and what else can you want? The assignee, for example. Okay, so the first one is Japan Science and Technology Corporation. So let us say we want to see what are the so here it prompts you, so you can do that. Okay, so you got it. So you got 37 results. Okay, so you get the results. The patent office is US. You got your synonyms. You've got your fields. You've got your priority date. You're sorting by relevance. You're not grouping by any classes. You're deduplicated by family, and you've got 37 results. Okay. Here on the right hand side, you will get a little bit of a visualization by Google. You can expand this to see all of it. It tells you 1995 to 1998, And here you can see who are the other assignees. Although you have this, they might have in collaboration. So although they are the main holders, there are other assignees as well who are working with them. Okay, so this is what is available in the form of visualization with Google Patents. Now let us enter the patent, one of them. Here, what do they offer? They highlight the words that you have indicated in your search string. You see all through, you have it highlighted. Okay. And what else can you get out of this? You can download it as a PDF. You can find the prior art. You can find similar technology. You can search by the particular inventor. You can see the family members. You can see what are the patents cited by this application and cited by the applicant. So let us, if I click on this, I don't want to lose you. I want you to try to do this on your own. You should get a PDF. Try this. Can you click on the download PDF? Let me try. May not lose you. Okay. Are you still with me? Can you see the PDF on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. So you can get the PDF. This is the PDF of the patent, and this is what the actual application is. All right, I'll close this. I come back to the original one. You can do a prior art search, which includes patent and non-patent literature. All right. So this is a very beautiful addition on Google Patents. So if I click on find prior art, it will itself put in the synonyms. You can modulate it. It puts in a priority date, and it will give you the prior art for both patent and non-patent literature. The bulb is the patent, and non-patent literature is the stack of books. You can remove the non-patent literature and limit your search to just patents. You see, if you want both, you have both. If you remove the bulb, you will remove the patent literature, and you will have only the books and non-patent literature. So here we have both patent and non-patent literature. All right. So now let us go back. Okay, so here we are on our initial search result. Okay, now we'll go back to the first page. And now let us see how many patents does Hiroshi Shimizu have. Okay, so we just click on his name and we should get, here it will only have his name in the thing of inventor. All right, and if this is the name of the inventor, it will bring out all his patents, because we have his patents over here. So that is the inventor. It does not, cannot do a assignee. It never works for me. Current assignee, it will always be this thing. If you cannot do a search on that. But here you will also see the family members. You will see the various events that has happened in the course of the prosecution of that patent. So what is the priority application? When was it filed? Priority to, assigned to, publication of the application, publication of the grant, when was the application granted, it is expired, when is anticipated, it is expired due to fee related, means they have not paid the fee, so it has come in the public domain, anticipated expiration. So this is everything which is available in the patent document. Now you can see what are the patents which are cited by this particular application. Just click here. You have patent citations. There are 27. All of these are highlighted within Google Patents. So all these documents would be, again, if you click on them, you will be able to go and see in detail. All right, so these are the patent citations. You also have the patents which have cited the particular application that you are looking at. So these are the ones which came after the application was filed and they have cited it. Similar documents, which are the similar patent documents, you will see this over here. What are the priority applications? What are the legal events? Who is the owner? Everything is available. What are the concepts? Okay, these are all machine generated. Okay, so you could download these as well. Okay, so this is the amount of information which is available here. Okay, so we've looked at this. We go back to the results. Okay, so now here also we saw the concepts in that one particular application. You want to see the concepts here in this set of results that you have got. You can pull it down here and you can open it with Microsoft Excel. It will give you an Excel sheet which will come onto the left of this whole page and you can do it. I would suggest you download the concepts of whatever, maybe you're checking out electric car. So get the Excel sheet and tell me that you have the concepts. Let us see whether you get the Excel sheet. It should be in a CSV format.
Got it, ma'am. Got it.
Excellent. Very fine. Any questions on the concepts? It's machine generated, it is incomplete, but it gives you a direction as to where the concepts are coming from. All right. Next is side by side. If you want the patent, for example, now you click on this, you will get the details on the right hand side. You click on the next one, the things will come. You can scroll down to a quick examination of the particular patent over here. Right? So if you click here, you will get the next one. For example, this is US 7411 over here. Entire details are given over here. Okay. So another thing that I frequently use in my thing is I use the classification which is given over here. For example, this classification, I feel that it is very important. Then you will see where it comes from on the absolute right hand side. It is electricity, electric communication technique, multiplex communication, code division, multiplex system, code type. That gives you the broader one. And if you actually click on it, here you should get okay, so we go here into this. Yeah, so that's basically what it is. Let me see. I will go back. One second. I have just one more thing that I want to show you on Google Patents, and then we can take the break. Not here. Okay. Okay. So here I can take. Okay. It's still too much. 1117. I want to go down. Let me limit myself. Patent Office US is limited. Inventor Japan. I did. Okay. Let me limit it by some other. Okay. No result. Okay, let's limit by Japan Steel Works. Okay, 359. So here there is another tab which says download. You see this tab which says download. You click on this and it will say open with Microsoft Excel. You say okay, the same way as you did for the thing. And then the Excel sheet should come up, which will have all the results. I want you to have, can you see my Excel sheet?
Ma'am, your Excel sheet is not visible.
Okay, so I cannot do that. Okay, so I would request you all to do it on your own. Are you able to see the result list though?
Yes, ma'am.
You are able to see the Google PAT result list. I want you all to download and get an Excel sheet. Are you able to see my Excel sheet now?
Ma'am, your screen is still loading. Yeah, we can see now, ma'am.
Okay, so have you all got an Excel sheet like this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fantastic. So here is something that is very useful. What you can do is you can make a pivot table out of it, right? And here you can filter however you want to. But the one thing that I like to do is I like to hyperlink my patent numbers. So for that, the result link is here. So here, this is the, so what I do is I insert a column and I do link, and here I do is equal to hyperlink. Okay. Link location is J3, right? Comma, and friendly name is A3. Closed, and I pull this down. Okay, so I get all of those numbers hyperlinked. So I actually can work from this Excel sheet by just clicking on this link. I should be able to go to the document in Google Patents. So just do this for yourselves and tell me that you've been able to do it. Please try it.
Ma'am, can you repeat once how to do the hyperlink?
Okay, so so you go, okay, I'll delete this. First thing what you have to do is you have to insert one column any place where it is suitable to you. I am taking C column, okay, and then you do is equal to, right? You do write hyperlink, then you put a bracket. Where is the link located? The link is located in cell J3. So you put J3, right? And then do a comma. Where is the friendly name of that what you want to hyperlink? It is in A3. So A3. So I close the bracket here and then I go down the entire data set and I will have all my entries in column A hyperlinked in column C. Okay. Now instead of A3, if I put B3, what will be the result? I'll go back and delete this. It's messing up. If you do B3, then all the titles will be hyperlinked. That's what will happen. So here you insert a column. Okay, you can put linked. you go is equal to, right? You put hyperlink. Location, where is the link located? J3. You do a comma. You want the titles hyperlink?
Ma'am, we have to insert column or row?
Column. Column.
Okay.
You have to insert a column because all your data number or entire thing is in a column, right? J3 and then B3 here, B3. And you just pull it down and you will have all the titles hyperlinked. You see? Okay. If
Participants, please respond if you can, could be able to do it, respond as yes. Ma'am, we are getting messages like yes, so the participants could be able to do it.
excellent. I think we are good for time, so it's time for a little break, right? Then we'll come back and we'll look at some other databases. I hope it's useful. If you have any questions, be ready with them. I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, 11:30, all of you have to join with the other link which has been shared to you. When we will be post. Ma'am, second link, there has been 2 links shared. So session 1 link, the next is session 2 link.
Can you send that to me again, please?
Yeah, ma'am, we will resend. Resend you.
Thank you.
Okay. Participants, it has been already mailed to you, session 2 link, and we will be posting the link in the WhatsApp group also. Please do join using that link at 11:30. Ma'am, you may kindly log off, ma'am.
Okay.
Your video is still on.